Hello. Hi. My name is Mike. I'm going to show you guys how to make seitan, but specifically I'm going to show you how to do the wash the flour method. So I'm doing my wash the flour method ham recipe, and this has been sitting here. This is a ball of it was flour. I turned it into a dough with some dye, and we're gonna now wash the starch out. So this is the first dough ball out of the two. I'm only gonna show you one, but if you want to check out the full video for my ham, you can, I'll link that in the description. So anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this. So this, like I said, this has been sitting in the water resting, and the consistency is very glutinous. Like it's like slimy a little bit. It's not going to be at the end, and you can see, I'm already starting to get some cloudy water here. So I'm going to go ahead and just massage this. And one of the things I like to have handy is a strainer here. And the other tool I like to have is this handy doodad drain stopper, so it stops the gluten from going into the sink. So yeah, my idea, so I'm going to start washing this and I'll tell you more about it. So so the water right now is cold. So we're going to do a couple different iterations here. Actually, I'm going to pour off some of this water so it doesn't splash me. So I have this sitting on top of my mesh strainer here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I really want to make sure I don't hurt my back, because I have a back injury, and I just, if you could see me right now, you'll see that I'm standing, I'm tall, I'm like 6'3", 6'4", so right now I'm just standing with my legs askew, so my back is not bent over. I know that some people have complained about that. So that's just one thing that I do, is just, I kind of chill out, spread my stance, and yeah, just start washing the flour. So the goal here is to get like I was saying, all the starch out of here. Now, you can just see after a little bit, it looks almost completely different. So, there's been a lot of I don't know, I don't want to call it urban, what are they, not urban tales, but there's just been a lot of misinformation, I guess. That's the best way to put it. Or speculation on how to wash the flour the best way possible. And the recipe I'm working on is probably one of the more technical that I do. So I thought this would be a perfect example. Plus the red dye is going to allow us to see the starch against the protein. The red dye binds against the protein. And you can already see we've got and this is what makes wash the flour so great. We've got muscle, they literally look like muscle fibers. Because this has been sitting here resting, auto-leasing meaning the self-kneading. If you hear self-kneading, it's just another way to say auto-lease, which is the technical term. But it's just been sitting here for probably 2 hours resting. So in my recipe, I believe I say to rest it for at least 1 hour, and this is why. If this was an hour earlier, we wouldn't be getting this far here. So let the resting, do the work for you. By the way, it's my intention to post this entire video with no cuts. One thing I'm going to do is put in the chapters. You can skim to see each wash. I don't know how many washes we're going to do, but my guess is we're going to do, somewhere around 5 to 6 washes. Now, this is already getting pretty milky. I don't know how long I've been doing this for. I'll throw a timer at the bottom. I'm being kind of ginger because I'm kind of talking. I'm not really paying attention. This process can go faster if you really concentrate, use both hands. I like to use one hand to kind of keep it steady here because my colander is not perfectly flat. It's rocking a little bit, and I don't want it to fall over and spill liquid everywhere. So it's at this point that you can drain this. I'm going to go ahead and strain this. So this is end of wash 1. So we're going to flip over our colander here and dump out the liquid. Okay, let's go ahead. Now you could have saved that and made, I've seen people make, I've actually never done it, I should do it, but you can see the starch at the bottom. I want to touch it because, I did, by the way, wash my entire sink. I always scrub down my entire sink with a sponge and soap just to get it. Actually, let's not do that. Let's put this back in. Okay. Yeah, anyway, I've actually never done that. I've never done the starch, like cheese or whatever. I really should do it. I don't know why I haven't. I know there's people probably cringing out there right now that I just dumped all that beautiful starch. But wow, look at that. You can see already. So this is after wash 1. It's just really difficult to pick up. It's starting to break apart, which it will do, and then come back together. Let's see if I can get this. So this is what it should look like roughly after wash 1. Now I'm using a high quality flour. I always use brand name flour. I did a test, and I'll link to that video too. I did a test. Let me stop talking here. The water's running. Okay, there we go. Yep, back in here. Okay, I did a test on, bread flour versus all-purpose and the different, store-bought, not store-bought. And, there wasn't a huge difference. I will say, though, and actually, I'm going to wait to finish my sentence while the water's running, so you don't hear the water running and you hear me. I'm using warm, ish water, by the way. Let's scrape some of this gluten stuck to the sides here, so it kind of, you can also clean your bowl while you're doing this and knock off those pesky little bits of gluten stuck to the sides. We're already super milky. Yeah, I used warm water here. Anyway, I tested all-purpose versus bread flour, which is a higher gluten content, versus store-bought, not store-bought. And one of the things, get that out of the way here, one of the things that I noticed, and this is after I filmed and edited the videos, eating some leftovers, and I was like, wow, the all-purpose has a better texture than the bread flour. And I don't know what it is, because it was the store-bought all-purpose that tasted really good, and the King Arthur one tasted really good. But I just prefer, anyway, the all-purpose brand name is because I just feel it's going to be a little bit more consistent. Like if I told you all to do, like a brand name, any store brand name, Kroger, Safeway, or whatever you have in your area if you're overseas, it might be a completely different gluten content. So this way, if you're at least using a brand name, whether it's King Arthur or whatever, nicer brand, and then the cheapest one you have, is you're likely to get more of a consistent output and flavor. So, okay, so we're nearing the end here of wash 2, and here's some things that I'm feeling. It's starting to fall apart a little bit more, and what it's going to do is fall apart and come back together. That's just what's going to happen during the washes. So the next wash likely is going to be the one where it really falls apart. I'm starting to feel clumps of, let's see if we can, starting to feel clumps of starch forming. So like little hard nodules, nobules, starting to form. And when I feel those, I'm massaging them out. And what I'm doing underwater here is like squeezing it. Like you're not going to hurt this at all. Like I'm going to town here under the water. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a lot of misinformation, or like it's just difficult technique to master, is because you're afraid you're going to hurt it. At least I know I was, but you're not. This gluten like has a high pain tolerance. Like the only place you're really going to go wrong is if you boil it or you misseason it. But you're not going to go wrong, at least with wash the flour, with the gluten formation, unless you don't rest it. So I guess there are a couple different ways to mess it up. I was like, they're only going to do a couple. Anyway, so yeah, here we are, end of wash 3. The reason I know it's the end of wash 3 is, well, the water is just incredibly milky. I cannot see like the bottom of my hand. Like when I pick this up, it's just starchy again. I've heard you can also save this batch and do starch water recipes, but excuse me one second. All right, I'm back. Cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and dump this guy, and then we'll do wash 3. So again, we're dumping through the colander to save the bits of gluten, especially important in this stage. So here's, there we go. Here's what it looks like. Again, it looks like it's just falling apart on you. I promise you it's not. We still got some nodules here. I love that what I love about this recipe, as I was saying before, is how you can see the starch and you can see the protein. Red is the protein, white is the starch. That's what we're getting rid of here. Or we're getting rid of most of it. We're going to keep some of it, as we'll see later on. So sometimes I just like to pick this up and just kind of move it around to get some of that water out. Now again, I like to dump through the colander just in case there's any bits of gluten in there. One, I don't want it going down the drain, but two, I want to keep it all. I'm doing all this hard work. I don't want to lose my, did that backwards. I don't want to lose my hard work, my gluten down the sink there. Okay. Wash, I think this is wash 3. We're going to do a little bit slightly colder water. I don't know. I've heard between cold and warm, I've heard like, you want to alternate warm and cold, you want to be lukewarm. I don't know. I've never tested it. So it's possible that going cold and going warm is beneficial. I will say that, look, this water is still super milky at the beginning of the washes. Okay, well, what I will say is that heat does impact gluten. I do know that, obviously, because we heat it. We heat it to cook it, so that, heat will form the gluten at a certain point. And cold will slow down the gluten formation, and heat theoretically should heat it up, or should hasten the gluten formation. So one thing I don't think I've mentioned is that in order to keep like splashing myself, I keep my hands under the water here, and that's where I massage, and that's where I'm really like, right, I'm going in, I'm like really squeezing through, massaging, I'm kind of doing like massaging, starting kind of with my pinky, just doing that under the water here and grabbing different bits and kind of cycling through them all. So, as predicted, it's starting to fall apart even more. So I think some people, I've seen comments, people getting really worried or being like, I had to, you know, I tried to wash the flour, it didn't work. You know, oh, geez, that's in the shot still. You know, I tried to wash the flour, it didn't work. And, you know, I had to throw it away. Well, my guess is they got to this step and saw it doing that, and just said to, you know, to hell with it, and tossed it in the garbage, which was too bad. And hopefully this video is helpful so that food isn't wasted here. So wow, we're already super milky here again. You know, you can switch, I'll probably switch hands here in a little bit, but, you know, feel free to switch hands, or if you have a more stable surface than me, and you really need to work on that. If you have a more stable surface than me, you know, go at it with both hands. I've just done it before where, you know, I'm going, you know, I can't have it on the, you know, the bottom of the sink because I can't lean over without hurting my back, but I've had it where I've like doing it, you know, like it's already kind of rocking off there, like where it slides off and like gluten shoots everywhere, so. No good. Yeah, so we're really in the midst of the, this is like cool, let me show you this. Let me get a good handful here. So it's like, you know, it looks like raw meat basically, which is, I guess, kind of the point. That's the texture we're going for, at least in this recipe. But yeah, really falling apart on us here. And hopefully, and it will, in the next wash, it'll start to come back together, and then we'll be close to being done. That's kind of one of the markers of it being done, which we'll cover more later. So I don't really like have like a, I'm done, you're done with wash 4 or 3 or 2 or 5 or whatever, like when you hit this point. Like for me, my markers are, as I was saying, like I have rough markers, but they're not like hard and fast or whatever. You know, number 1 wash is like when we're just getting started and the water gets like super milky to the point where I really can't see what I'm doing, and I'm worried about saturation of the starch, like the starch going into the water. Number 2 is it's going to start to kind of, you know, I'm really going to see those thick, beautiful strands of gluten that we saw in that second wash. And then wash 3, it's really going to start to fall apart. We're in wash 4 now, and I can feel it starting to come back together a little bit. So that's kind of my rough guidelines, but like, you know, that's where feel comes in, and that's why I think this technique is difficult, or like, you know, worrisome for some. I know the first time I ever did this, actually let me dump this and refill it, and then I'll tell you a story about the first time I ever made wash the flour seitan. Look at that, wow. Again, we're just getting the water out here. See, it's already starting to kind of form, come back together. Oh, beautiful. That's exactly what we want. We're seeing more red than white. This is great. There's still some nodules here. We'll wash those out in the next 1 to 2 washes. Yeah, see, here's big old starch. Big old starch knob. Okay, cool. So, we're draining. Great. Let's dump that guy out, put him back in, flip this over. I finally got it. Let's fill this up. Let's do, I don't know. I just go with how I'm feeling. Let's just do like warm-ish water here. So this is a little too hot. If I had to describe the feeling of this, the temperature of this water, what it feels like, it's gonna be like kind of warm-ish, like tea after it's sat out for a little bit, but it's still hot enough to drink. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Now again, you want to fill this up, not so it's like at the edge, like you want to leave a little gap here. So you don't like just constantly fling water everywhere, but you want enough water to where your hand can go under and you can squeeze and go. Okay. It's already starchy. Wow, a lot of starch in here. That or I'm just doing a good job of really massaging this. Again, I'm kind of grab, turn, squeeze out. It's going through the middle of my fingers. I go to another section, do that, and I'm doing kind of like, I'm just grabbing different, I make sure I'm grabbing new gluten each time. It's already starting to come back together. Look at this. Like at the end of this wash, it should be pretty much a solid gluten. I keep leaving that in the shot. Should be a really solid gluten ball by the end here. And maybe we'll do one more wash, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Okay, so the first time I made wash the flour seitan, I was actually this recipe. This is the version I have is a version of Kim Weston's version. We have a couple differences. Sometimes I use refined coconut oil. I think he uses butter. In my main recipe, I explain to use butter just because I feel like it's easier for people to find than refined coconut oil. And I just want to make recipes as I'm developing them as like simple as possible. So I think, kudos to him. I don't do his basting method. But either way, that was my first time was this recipe, which is like, this is probably like one of the harder wash the flour recipes. I think a lot of people start with like chicken nuggets or something like that. But I was like, no, I'm going to just, I'm just going to make this. So the second time I ever made seitan was, wash the flour seitan rather. I was, all vital wheat gluten at that point, was in that video. So when you're watching my one ham to rule them all video, that was the second time I ever made wash the flour, or is it the third? It might have been the third, second or third, because I did some tests before that. Let's go with the third. I think I made it 3 times. The second time was good, but the first time I made it, it was like neon red, and I had to control for the type of dye I was using. So yeah, it turned out really great, and I was hooked. I wish it was easier to do. I would do it more often. So I've been kind of enchanted by it ever since. I think it's really good. I think it's best used for like ham, hearty meats, like I think are pretty good. I have not tried. I want to try like the wash the flour technique where it's like not that washed, to leave some starch in there. So, all right, let's take a pause from that story and see where we are. Water is super milky here. We're going to do one more wash here. It's coming together, but it's not, like, see the difference here? Well, maybe I'll put up a side-by-side or something, but, like, it's actually holding together. Like, it's coming together. I can, like, hold it upright. You can't really see that, but it'll dangle, but it's not quite there. We still have some big, let's find a big chunk of starch here. Okay, so like that is fine. Like these little tiny nodules are okay. These ones are not okay. These are a little too big. We want them smaller than the size of a pencil eraser, and on top of that, there's a little bit too many of them. I don't know. I just you want most of the starch washed out, at least for the ham recipe. Follow the recipe you're following. Don't just blindly take my advice. If the creator has something different in their recipe, then follow that. This is just like a rough guide for washing the flour, because I don't think a full uncut version of washing the flour, like the washing version, is actually on online. At least not that I've seen. Link to it if it does exist, because I'd love to see it. Okay, let's go ahead and rinse this, and hopefully this will be the last wash. Or drain this, rather. There we go. Yeah, look at that. It's just like in between me showing it to you, that just like a few seconds ago and now, like this is looking great. Yeah, we're on track here. I'm holding it up. Look, it's coming apart, but like the gluten's way more formed than it was even 30 seconds ago. It's amazing how it sticks together. Okay. All right, so final wash. At least I'm gonna make this the final wash. Let's do it. I'm gonna stay warm here. Still starchy. It's a little bit clearer, but man, still starchy. I'm going to switch hands here. Oh, fresh hand. Love having a fresh hand. Wow, it's already, as I was saying earlier, like it's, by the second it is tightening up, meaning like the gluten is being stronger, is getting stronger. So I'm not as good with my left hand. Okay. So yeah, we're just gonna keep rocking here. I don't know if it's just me, but the water has almost like a duller whiteness to it. I don't know if that is visible on the camera, but it is less milky white and more of like a, I don't know, opaque white. It's not as like vibrant as the first couple washes were. Oh man, we're almost there. Wow, you guys. I thought that was going to take longer. There's still some. All right, I might have to go into superpower mode here. I'm gonna have to lean over here. Hopefully my head is in this shot. All right, we're going superpower mode. So if you were able to use both hands, it'd probably go twice as fast. I was also like, yucking it up with you guys, so I wasn't really like, I was telling stories and stuff, so I wasn't really like going to town on this. But man, if you go to town, you could make this go twice as fast. Yeah, look at that. I think one or two more minutes, and it should be done. So we don't have those nodules left. We're hanging here. It's stretching. Isn't that incredible? This is like always baffles me. Like every time I do this, I'm like, is this real? It seems like something that's fake, which is part of the reason why I think I like it so much. Some sort of hack in the Matrix or something. Okay, we're probably done. We could probably call it right now. And you know what? I think will I? All right, so here's the last kind of main thing I do. I check it for any sort of massive bits of starch. This is totally fine. Like little striations of starch. In fact, you want some starch in here. If you go too much, like it might get a little squeaky at the end, but like little bits of starch, little tiny little, like literally like almost like the size of like the grain of sand or something. Like this is even okay. There's not a ton of them, so we're good. So all right, we're gonna call this here. So what I like to do is let it rest in a strainer. And the reason for that is that you want water now to get out of here. Like there's still a ton of water left in this. And I'll show you, I'll do some footage of right at like after the wash, like after an hour or two. and this will look completely different. It'll look like a, yeah, I mean, like a blob. I don't know, this is a blob too, but less like brains and more like a cohesive like blob, and it'll actually have like the little dimples here. So anyway, hope you all had fun. Hope you learned something. If you did, feel free to give it a like. That's something you like to do. And yeah, I hope, I wish you the best of luck with making awesome food in your kitchen. And I'll try to answer any comments or questions below that you might have about this process. And hopefully this demystified some of it for you. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day. And what's my sign off? It is be nice to each other and keep cooking, y'all. All right, guys. So as soon as I shut off the camera and started to do my second wash, I found that I have an easier way to do this. So instead of this, I was putting this on here and washing it was rocking. Just do that. That was better. I'm sure I've done this in the past, but anyway, just an easier way to do things. I also timed this wash where I wasn't filming and talking the whole time, and it took like 15 minutes versus the 30 that it took to do that first one. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the first dough that I washed. It's completely different. You see it's shedding some water there. Let's just take this. Get rid of some water there. But it is like completely different, right? It is, it is its whole thing here. I've got this guy here, which I just finished washing, so I'm going to combine these and make a roast. So hopefully you'll see the end of that video. Anyway, enjoy it.